This year, we hired 4 amazing marketing and research interns here at Centerfield in the corporate marketing and digital brands team. All are recent college graduates, or will be soon, in marketing or a related discipline. As you'll see in this recording, they're amazing, thoughtful, talented folks. And one of their main projects this summer was for business.com. That's one of Centerfield's digital brands. And what business.com does is provide advice on building a better business and a better business culture. And the project that the interns did, these folks did, was to understand the job market for new graduates. So how did they do that? Literally, what they did was apply to jobs as themselves to land after the internship was over. A couple of other notes. Our team here has impressive resumes and experience. After all, they were selected by us, by Centerfield, out of dozens of applicants to our internship program. We provided resume and cover letter coaching and provided all of them with the time to thoughtfully apply to jobs. They applied to jobs labeled entry level for the most part. And when they did so, they had an average qualification match of 83%, meaning that they believe they met or exceeded most of the things asked for in the job. And I would agree with that. When we checked in a few weeks ago at the end of July, the team had applied to 230 jobs, and at that time had landed just 1 interview. So something is really broken here, and it's a difficult and challenging job market. So that's what we're going to talk about. First, let's meet the team. I'll ask Hallie to start. Can you all provide your name, your university, and your major or area of concentration?
Yeah, thank you, John. Hi, my name is Hallie Dynan. I'm a recent graduate of Georgia State University here in Atlanta, and I got my degree in marketing.
Hi, my name is Prudy Lee. I'll be graduating this December from Lehigh University with a degree in anthropology.
Hi, I'm Simran Pavan, and I recently graduated from the University of Richmond, and I had a double degree in psychology and business and concentrating in marketing.
Hey, my name is Darius Wilson. I went to Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a urban studies and public policy major, and I graduated this year in May.
All right. Thanks a bunch again for being part of the internship program, everyone. So I want to talk about this, the job market for recent graduates. So my first question is for you, Hallie. Now that you've been through the process of applying to dozens of jobs, what do you think, how do you react when you see the term entry level in a job description?
My immediate thought when I see entry level on a job description is, oh, they want 4 to 7 years of working experience, because almost all of the job applications that I've applied to, which is, I think we're at like 100, or I'm at 100 so far, most entry level positions say they want at least 4 to 7 years in that range of working experience. And as a recent graduate, I have like 2 to 3, but a lot of companies are asking 4 to 7. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, they're going to ask for way more experience than I actually have.
Yeah, it doesn't feel real. It's almost like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that it's entry level pay, but not entry level in terms of experience. Sort of want to have their cake and eat it too. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you all are entering the job market after a pandemic. And prior to the pandemic, everybody was working in an office. Now, many companies aren't. One of the things that we were interested in talking about when we got together a few weeks ago was when jobs list remote work as a benefit. So there's a benefits section in every job generally, and it was remote work. How do you react to that as a recent graduate?
I find it pretty surprising that a lot of companies are listing that as a benefit. If anything, I think hybrid work would be a benefit, because you have the option and the ability to go into the office if you prefer, if you work better that way, or you can like work from home. And having that flexibility, I think, is more of a benefit than just I stay at home and work all day, which, you know, going to school throughout the pandemic, it's proven that I can be self-sufficient in a remote setting. So it's not necessarily a benefit per se, in my opinion. I think more along the lines of like, oh, I can have the option to go into the office and like be around people and experience that. That to me is more of a benefit than remote work.
Yeah, it is for me too. You can see that behind me, there's, I'm in the office, but getting to meet all of you in person really took things to the next level for me. Like the meeting that we had talking about all of this, I don't know if it would have been quite as effective if it was all done over Zoom. Although you make a great point that we can do this over Zoom and it works great. So hybrid may be the answer. Let me move on and talk about salaries and whether or not jobs list salary requirements. Trinity, I know that you dove into this. Can you share how many percentage of jobs you applied for had a salary requirement, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, so just under 30% of jobs listed their salary ranges or expectations, anything hinting at, your financial compensation. And I get they're trying to like keep their cards close, but that's not really helpful when you're giving all this information to new grads who are considering all sorts of things, other offers potentially or relocation, and just trying to understand like what we're worth in the new market. We don't have any frame of reference, so that's been really difficult to process. And then sometimes they'll ask you at a phone screen, what do you expect? And since you have no frame of reference, you might lowball yourself out of, a couple, $10,000 or $20,000, and that's not something we should have to do either.
Yeah, and I wonder, just a follow-up question there. Do you feel like you trust a company more if they list their salary requirements?
I don't know if trust is the word I'd use, but yeah, okay. Trust is a really good word. And then like just transparency about what's going on behind the scenes, because you don't really have any idea until you're actually there on your first day or your first month. It kind of peels back the layers of the company, I guess. So yeah, it gives a better idea of what you're signing yourself up for.
It might be an indication of transparency, something like that. No, I'm curious if you can speak for yourself and for everyone. How much time did you put individually into each job that you applied for? Meaning, how much cover letter, research, resume, really being thoughtful and how much time you spent on each one? Yeah,
so there's all sorts of types of applications these days where they have like autofill and they have easy apply on LinkedIn. But there are also a lot of places that don't allow you to do that really want you to take the time and put, the manual effort in. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but every time you're considering a job or a different position, you're really trying to imagine yourself in that role. And I found myself like, if it was something that I was very used to applying for, it's a position that every company has, you might take 20 or 30 minutes just to figure out, is this the right fit for me? But if it's something new you're considering, if it's an industry you hadn't previously researched, you could take, a couple of hours just to get grasp of, what they're asking of you and then how you fit in. Because before you have to convince someone else that, you're the right fit for their company, you have to convince yourself as well. So that's a lot of work you're putting in behind the scenes that, maybe they aren't considering.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it also begs the question, if you have a full-time job, how can you possibly devote all the time to applying to a new job? I think it's kind of a double whammy there. Simran, let me ask you a few questions. So can you talk about what happens when you receive a response from a company? So I guess a multi-part question. How often did you receive a response back from a company, the type of response that you got back? Did you notice any differences among types of companies?
Yeah. So the thing about responses is that there are many different kinds of response and there are levels to the response. So on one hand, there's the automated response, which is just say, hey, we got your application and we're going to look into it now. a lot of companies have stopped doing this automated response if you're applying through LinkedIn, because LinkedIn will send the email for you. Your application has been sent. I felt that of the few companies that did their own automated response were companies that are, I would say, bigger or more well-known companies or public companies, whether that's your Uber or your Spotify or Yelp. Those are the companies that send you a personalized email. Then comes the responses where certain companies are looking for a personality assessment. And now that's when the percentages of responses trickle down. So if I am applying to 100 jobs, I think I saw only 4% of personalized responses. So either that is a follow-up, and then very rarely comes the interview, or let's do a quick chat. And that again, I didn't see much of a difference between bigger or smaller companies. I think that was more with the automated responses.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's interesting to see. It sounds like you had a very favorable reaction to a personalized response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as a candidate, if you get a response that is personalized to you, you can see that yes, this company is interested in me in the same way that I'm interested in them, which might be a indication in the future that yes, the amount that I will put into this company later as a potential employee would be the amount that I'm getting back.
Yeah, that's a great way of illustrating the trade-off that seems fair.
Yeah.
So for some jobs that you applied for, there was a next step where there was an introductory phone call or interview. What makes a good experience for you from the candidate's perspective?
I think from a candidate's perspective, it is really a lot to do with your personality and how well you can connect with the person on the other line. It is obviously a lot to do with, yes, am I a good fit for the company? But it also is how well can I relate to this person I'm talking to? Because at the end of the day, you are trying to sell yourself. And whether that is you're selling yourself as a good employee or a good team member. So yeah, I think what I really put into, or what I really got out of it, is that interviews where I was able to relate to the interviewer, where I was able to, where they were responding to me in a positive tone, whether that was after each response that I gave them, they were like, oh yeah, that was a great answer, or just being responsive, and you can kind of feed off of that energy. Yeah, so I think that's what I would say for those kind of interviews.
Thanks. That's good advice for any company in their interview process. So, Darius, you studied urban planning, worked in the city of New Orleans, or for the city of New Orleans. How did you decide what jobs to apply for? And what did you think about when a job was saying how much experience was required? And then also kind of a follow-up question, what did you think about applying for jobs on LinkedIn? What was that experience like?
Well, my experience with deciding where I wanted to apply to was based on my experience prior to graduating. So I had most of my experience within the community of New Orleans. So when I applied to the Centerfield position, I kind of used that community experience and some of my research experience to kind of update my resume in order to even get a look from Centerfield. I believe my first interview was with Aaron, and he went over some of the requirements for the internship position, and I mean it was pretty broad, and it was like pretty accepting of some of the experience that you did have prior to the internship, which that was a plus because not everybody is a marketing major or a research major. So, different people bring different things to the table. So that was, a plus when, applying to Centerfield and the position of Centerfield. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Everybody brings something unique to the table. That's so true. And especially in the context of being a recent college graduate and having limited work experience, it's hard to imagine that you can fulfill 100% of the requirements of a job.
Right.
There's some things you're gonna have to learn on the job. I guess let me follow up my question by saying, what advice would you give to recent college graduates on their search for a job?
The advice I would give to recent college graduates would be get as much experience as you can before applying, whether that be internships or either volunteer work, because most of the jobs that you are applying to will require at least 4 years of experience before applying to an entry level position. That's just how it is. That's the job market nowadays. It's really competitive. So I would say just try to work on your resume, and like I said earlier, just get as much experience as you can, because it will help in the long run when applying to jobs. It's kind of crazy because some of these jobs require 4 years experience, but it's just like you just graduated college, so how can I start off with getting that experience? And some internships, they're only a couple of months, so that really doesn't add up to the amount of experience that you need to apply to the position. So I would say just try to get as much experience as you can and build relationships, so you can at least get your foot in the door somewhere, and that'll help in the long run. So
Darius, that's great advice, and that was going to be my last question, but I kind of want to ask that question to everyone.
Yeah.
And so Hallie, I'll go back to you. Either what advice would you give to a recent college graduate, or what advice would you give to companies that want to hire talented folks like yourself?
For recent graduates, I would say get as much face-to-face networking as possible. Whether that be go to networking events, like if you're still in school, take advantage of career development opportunities that the university provides, talk to your professors, add them on LinkedIn. Just the more people the better is what I've found throughout this process. For companies, I would say maybe be a little more flexible with your entry level requirements. I mean, coming out of college, a lot of people told me, oh, you're entering a great job market, nothing to worry about. You'll find a job within a few weeks, if not months. And that's just simply not the case, because I feel like companies are just making it exceedingly difficult to meet these requirements when, for me personally, coming out of college, I had an internship every year that I was in school. So I had four years worth of internships. And still, it's well, you don't have this specific, criteria. Well, I can learn if you give me the opportunity. So it's just maybe creating more opportunities for these recent graduates to, show their skills, show what we do have to offer. Because, we're a good bunch of graduates and we have a lot of skills, so we can offer. So that's what I would say.
I agree with that. Great feedback. Trinity, same question for you.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is that you really have to learn to market yourself. And this might be kind of ironic because we're doing a marketing internship, but anybody should know how to do this. You're the only person, your voice is the only voice you can control. You can give references and you can, get whoever to write you, the most glowing letter of recommendation, but you're the only person that knows your background and your experience and all the hard work you've put in. So it's your job to take that and spin that however you need to. Obviously, you're not supposed to lie, but make it fit what you need to fit and advertise yourself in the best way possible.
It's marketing. Exactly. I agree with that. Simran, round us out.
My advice to recent graduates is divided into two parts. The first part is that it's a numbers game. It's something that my dad told me, which I didn't understand in the beginning. But once I got into it, it really made sense to me that if there's a 4% response rate, which is just something that I have found, it might be different for everybody. 20 applications may just not cut it. So you have to really, instead of letting that make you disheartened or let it reflect on your work, it just expands your pool, because it does not reflect on your worth or your experiences. Just keep moving forward. And I think the second part of advice is really, as Hallie mentioned, just being able to make these connections, pester people. I know that's like, it's a little boisterous to say that, but do those follow-ups, keep texting people, keep pestering them, because at the end it's your job on the line, and it's your life, and that's how you want to kind of go about it. And you only need that one job to get your foot in the door. So repeat the process. Try and get those chats, try and get those calls with recruiters, with people on your future teams, and something will work out. That's my piece of advice.
Well, I think this has all been great advice. It's cool to see how everybody thinks about things a little bit differently. And I'm excited not only to see what you all do next, but for everyone who's watching this video to look at the research that this team did into the job market. We'll be sharing that link in the description. All right, thanks everybody. That was awesome.